Hey, what's going on YouTube? Son of Sanguinius here, and today we're going to be continuing our Blood Angels Tactics videos with a look at the Assault Squad. So, just to mention this, I'm currently not looking at the data slate entry from the Blood Angels Codex. I am currently looking at the one in the Angel's Blade supplement for Blood Angels, and yes, if there was any question as to whether or not the one in Angel's Blade replaces the one in the Blood Angels Codex, yes, it does. So, the data slate for the Assault Squad and the Angel's Blade is the most current data slate for Blood Angels as far as the Assault Squad is concerned. There's also the Devastator Squad that's in Angel's Blade 2, and we'll go over that in another video. Alright, so the Assault Squad, they come in at 70 points. They are Weapon Skill 4, Ballistic Skill 4, Strength 4, Toughness 4, 1 Wound, Initiative 4, 1 Attack, Leadership 8 with a 3-up Armor save. The only difference here is the Veteran Sergeant. The Sergeant has the same stat line as the regular Marines. The Veteran Sergeant just has 2 attacks instead of 1 and is Leadership 9 instead of Leadership 8. So, moving on to War Gear, they have bolt pistols, chain swords, and frag and crack grenades. Special rules are, and they shall know no fear, combat squads, and furious charge. For options, you may include up to 5 additional Space Marines for 14 points per model. The entire squad may take jump packs for 3 points per model. Up to 2 Space Marines may replace their bolt pistols with one of the following: a flamer for 5 points per model, a melt-a-gun or hand flamer for 10 points per model, or a plasma gun, inferno pistol, or plasma pistol for 15 points per model. And for every 5 models in the unit, 1 model may replace its bolt pistol and chainsword with an eviscerator for 25 points per model. You may upgrade the Space Marine Sergeant to a Veteran Sergeant for 10 points. The Space Marine Sergeant or Veteran Sergeant may do any of the following: take items from the melee weapons and ranged weapon lists, or take a combat shield and/or melt-a-bombs for 5 points each. And finally, the unit may select a drop pod or rhino as a dedicated transport unless it has jump packs. Alright, so the Assault Squad, there's kind of some debate as to whether or not it's even worth taking these guys. Do I take them? Yes, both, for fluffy reasons, and I do believe that they do have a place. It's just as far as, assault units go, obviously they're not the greatest, but they are fairly cheap, and they can be fairly effective against other troops. So the biggest question is, hey, do you use these as, frontline first wave, or do you use them as sort of like a fast-moving reserve, keep them in the backfield? When your opponent, rolls in with their troops trying to take your objectives, you can sort of move these guys up to intercept. I think, both lines of thought are valid. Obviously, it depends against your opponent. I would say I would probably stick to perhaps the fast-moving reserve, just sort of keep them in the backfield, and then when your opponent tries to take any objectives in the midfield or on your side of the table, you can sort of move the assault squads into intercept and sort of use them as an intercepting force. Because frankly, assault squads, they can't take on the equivalent of Vanguard vets, or they can't really compare with like Death Company or something like that. But assuming you're going after either perhaps maybe some other fast attack choices or some other troop choices, they can be fairly successful in that. So now that we've kind of established 2 ways, you can either throw them up in the front line, or you can just sort of keep them back as kind of like a fast moving reserve, sort of almost like a counter attack unit. When your opponent comes in, tries to take your objectives, you sort of send these guys in to sort of intercept and hopefully destroy the unit so you can keep your objectives. But there is some flexibility as far as how you want to build these guys out. You can kit them out for anti-armor, of course. You can go 2 melt-a-guns on 2 separate Marines. The Sergeant can take 2 Inferno pistols from the ranged weapon lists, and if you wanted to. You can also, play around with some of the special weapons. If you wanted to go plasma instead of melta, you can certainly do that. Now, this is where we get into the stuff that's changed, aside from the points value change, because the original Assault Squad was 85 points. The new ones are just 70 points, and it's mainly because they took off the jump packs. we can now take eviscerators and combat shields. Those are the two main differences as far as our options that are available for us to take. So the Eviscerator, in case you guys don't know, it's Strength times 2, AP 2, melee, unwieldy, armor bane. So it's kind of like a Power Fist as far as gameplay goes, except it has armor bane. So that's cool, I guess. And then we have combat shields, which just grant, I believe it's the sergeant that can take it. Yeah, the sergeant can take the combat shield that gives him a 6-up invulnerable save. Okay, I guess for 5 points, why not? But here's where it kind of goes downhill a little bit. We can't have those free drop pods or free rhinos anymore. Now, why do I mention that, and why is that kind of a fairly substantial loss for Blood Angels? Well, before, what you could do is it stated in their old data slate entry that if they didn't have jump packs, they could take a drop pod or a rhino for free, and you could basically make up your points by taking that free drop pod or rhino, keeping the 5-man squad, and then a fairly popular combo was 2 Melta-Guns, 2 Inferno Pistols on the Sergeant, and a drop pod for something like 135 points or something like that. It was a fairly cheap and effective unit. That's gone now. I mean, you can still kit them out that same way. You can still take the drop pod, but you're gonna have to pay the points for it. So. And I realize that that particular setup is something more used in tournaments, not necessarily in casual games. But is it a good change? Honestly, I don't really think so, and I say that because we don't have access to the Skyhammer Annihilation Force, so the Eviscerator is kind of like meh. I guess it's I guess if in place of something like a Power Fist, you could it might be worth it, but then again you'd have to trade your ranged weapon in order to do that. In this case, it might just be a bolt pistol, but that might be someone you can give a plasma pistol or inferno pistol or whatever else to. So I don't really like the change because it's I don't see it necessarily being worth it. Honestly, I think if it was me, I'd probably just take the free transports over the Eviscerator and the combat shield. The combat shield is a nice little bonus, but I'm not saying it's not worth 5 points. I'm just saying, practically speaking, there's going to be enough shots coming at you that your sergeant isn't going to live. And I really don't see the point of giving your sergeant an invulnerable. I mean, it's a nice idea, but 6-up isn't. I highly doubt that it would be that effective. You might save 1 or 2 wounds out of what, like, on average, how many shots are, or how many, attacks are going to be coming at you in close combat. Say, you come against, some Chosen or something with power weapons or the equivalent. It's the combat shield isn't really going to do you much. And the Eviscerator, it's cool and all, and Armor Bane is a nice bonus, but I don't really like the fact that you have to trade, both your chainsword and your bolt pistol in order to get it. That just seems a little bit pricey, especially when you can just take a Power Fist on the Sergeant and basically have the exact same thing, with the exception of Armor Bane. But if you wanted to go anti-armor, then why not just stick with the Melta-Guns and the Inferno Pistols? That's that's just my personal opinion. Take it for what it's worth. But moving on. You can combine the Assault Squad with the Sanguinary Priest to make it a little bit more survivable. Now T4 3-up armor is pretty good as far as basic units go. Marines do have some built-in resiliency, but since you're going to be flying around ideally on jump packs, you may need something a little bit more than cover save. 5-up feel no pain is always good, and keep in mind it'll also boost up your weapon skill. And I mentioned this with something like, I don't know if it was my Death Company video or the Sanguinary Priest video, but I mentioned that, if, in all honesty, I'd probably throw my Sanguinary Priest in something like the Assault Squad over the Death Company, simply because, the law of diminishing returns kicks in. The Death Company are already, sort of an A unit. Why would I, make it an A plus unit when I can take an Assault Squad, which is basically a C unit, and take it up to a B unit by giving it Feel No Pain and increased weapon skill. Sure, they won't, be completely decked out with power weapons or anything, but assuming you like to take them in 10-man squads, which I like to do, they're going to have sort of that critical mass there, and there's going to be a lot of bodies. It means you're going to be rolling a lot of dice, and you can overwhelm your opponent with the sheer volume of your attacks. And on the charge, assuming you get a Sanguinary Priest in there, they're going to be Weapon Skill 5, Strength 5, Initiative 5, 3 up armor, Toughness 4. They can be, fairly resilient against, some other, infantry units that are, fast attack or troops. So, anyway, whatever the role, I think Assault Squads definitely do have a place in a list. So long as you manage the points carefully, I think they can be used as kind of like a backfield sort of counter-attacking unit, to sort of keep them in the backfield. Alternatively, I can also see them being used sort of like the front line to sort of take the hits, before your elites move in, whether it be your Vanguard vets or your Death Company or your Sanguinary Guard. Either or, I think Assault Squads can definitely be useful, so long as you as always, apply them carefully and make sure that you have a definite role for the unit. So anyway, that's all I got time for in this video. Feel free to leave a comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.